Focus on the issue, not on the person, which means no name calling. Do not call each other out of your name. I know it can be very easy. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you, because when I used to get upset, like I said in my previous videos, I was not the easiest person to deal with, okay? I would go for low-hanging fruit. I would go back to my baser instincts, go to fight or flight, and I would say whatever I wanted to say to hurt you, to maim you, because to me it was like, oh, I feel attacked, so if I feel attacked, it means I have to defend myself by any means necessary, okay? But I realized that that is not a good way to resolve conflict, because for me, my husband doesn't call me out of my name. Since we've been boyfriend and girlfriend, he's never once called me the B word. He's never called me anything outside of my name. Even no matter how upset he gets, he has a lot of self-control in terms of walking away and whatever he needs to do to go cool himself down. Me, on the other hand, don't set out to attack. No matter how upset or frustrated you are, don't automatically just go into attack mode. Because when you are doing that, your husband or your spouse would turn off. You are setting grounds for him to feel like he has to defend himself. Don't use the word you all the time. Use I instead of you. For example, don't tell your spouse, you always do this. You never listen to me. You never help me with this. You never help me with that. You this, you're that. Say things like, I really feel unheard when I speak to you. I feel like you don't value the things that I'm saying. I feel like I'm not seen and I'm not heard by you. That's a lot more potent. It's a lot more weightier than you just coming on the attack. Because also by you saying how you feel, number one, it's not attacking him, so he doesn't have to get into a defensive mode. When somebody feels attacked, automatically they're going to get defensive. And when people get defensive, they get rigid, they get hard because they're in a stance of fight or flight. That's not what we want. But when you're conveying how you feel and saying, I feel like you don't hear me. I feel like my voice is not valuable to you. I feel like my opinion doesn't mean anything to you. Your husband or your boyfriend can take that more as, oh, this is what I'm making this person feel like. So what can I do about this? What am I doing to make this person feel this way? It makes him self-reflect instead of him being on guard. It's a huge difference. This is something I learned through therapy, and it has worked a lot. Next, and this is a big one, take responsibility for your part in the disagreement. Now, I know it is very easy to point out the flaws in the other person. It is very easy to say, you did this, you did that. But what part did you play in this disagreement is what you have to ask yourself. Nobody is 100% perfect. It cannot always be your husband's fault. It cannot always be your boyfriend's fault. Because at the end of the day, if that person is that bad where they're always the ones at fault, why are you still with that person? That person obviously has some type of psychological issues if they're always the only person doing something wrong to offend you, and you've never done anything wrong. You've never played a part. You're just 100% an innocent victim or innocent bystander. Why are you still with this person? In a relationship, nobody is perfect. We are two imperfect people coming together to create the most perfect life for ourselves. That's all we can do. And in recognizing that he is not perfect, you also have to recognize that you are not perfect, which means you can do things that upset him too. You could do things that are out of line too. You can do things that require taking accountability for. You can do things that require an apology. You can do things that hurt his feelings as well. You can do things that trigger him and provoke certain things out of him the same way he triggers you and provokes certain things out of you. The same eyes you're looking at him through, look at yourself. How did I play a role in this? What did I do? Because when you can do that, when you guys are having your conversations, when you are in the heat of a disagreement, there's nothing like saying, you know what? For my part in this, for what I did to hurt you, I am sorry. And I take accountability and I take responsibility, and I will not do that again. I did not realize how this would affect you. I did not realize how my actions or my inactions would affect you. By you being big enough to do that, it changes the whole dynamic of the argument. Because number one, if he's not used to you doing that, it's like a shock to his system, because he's like, whoa, there's maturity going on here. And it kind of disarms him, because he wasn't expecting you to be able to take accountability, to see yourself. And by doing that, if you are with a reasonable person, it allows him the space also to take accountability for whatever part he's played also. But when we are constantly on, it's your fault, on the attack mode, it doesn't give him the space to take accountability, because like I said, it just puts him in fight or flight. It's not about being reasonable in that moment. It's about, I have to defend myself. If you want to come to a resolution and fight fear, part of fighting fear is to see, how did I contribute to where we are right now? How did I contribute to this disagreement? How did I contribute to this argument? How did I contribute to this current state of our relationship? What were the things that I did or did not do? How did I play a part? Everything is never 100% the other person's fault. And that's the other part. Say, I am sorry. Those 3 words can be like water on fire. It can quench so many things. But because a lot of us are stuck in our egos, a lot of us are stuck in our pride, where we feel too big to say sorry because he did something to me too, or because I feel this type of way, I'm not going to say sorry. He got to say sorry first. And then it just becomes a battle of the wills. If you really care about your relationship and not just proving who's right and who's wrong, if you really, really do care about each other and want to build a life together of peace and harmony, of love and understanding, those 3 words, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Genuinely, not just to end the conversation, not just saying, okay, fine, I'm sorry. Well, I'm talking about a genuine apology where you can really look at the other person and say, you know what? I'm sorry. And it's not, I'm sorry, but, or I'm sorry if. It's just, I hear you. I see what you're saying. I may not have meant it to come out that way. I may not have meant my actions to make you feel this way, but because it did, I am sorry. Very simple. And I know it could feel uncomfortable. It can feel like a dagger to our ego or to our pride. But sometimes we have to put pride aside for the sake of love. And I'm not talking about just blindly putting it aside. I'm talking about knowing that you did something wrong. Putting your pride aside and saying, I'm sorry because I was wrong. I hear you. And I will do my best to not let this happen again. I will do. I'm sorry. And I will do better. Very simple. Agree to disagree. We are not the same person. I've said this before, but even identical twins that grew up in the same womb, once they're outside of the womb, they will have disagreements. So it's not a big stretch for you to believe that you will have a disagreement with your spouse or your boyfriend. At the end of the day, we are 2 people that have lived 2 totally separate experiences that are coming together to create a life. The way you may see something may be completely different from the way your husband or your boyfriend may see something, because we're coming at it from two totally different perspectives. You cannot try to force him to see things your way. The most you can do is to identify how you're feeling and to convey that. The same way it is not okay for him to try to force you to see things the way he sees things. Everybody has their own free will. Everybody has their own mind. Hopefully you agree more than you disagree. But in the areas that you disagree, after you guys had conversations, and if you both are still like, well, I still believe this, and on this side, I still believe that, then sometimes it is okay to agree to disagree. And you just know that in these situations, you just don't agree. As long as you agree more than you disagree, and as long as whatever you're disagreeing on is not like pivotal to the foundation of your relationship, just try to move forward. If you realize that you're just going around in circles on the same disagreement all the time, maybe it is time to get a neutral third party. What I would recommend is to get couples therapy if you can afford it, if it's something that you both are comfortable with. But if you can't afford it, or one person might want to go to therapy, another person might not want to go to therapy, if you have a neutral person in your lives that you both respect, that you both know will not take sides, that you both know will tell you the truth whether you want to hear it or not, speak to that person on the specific issue that you guys are disagreeing on, and see if they can give you guys a different perspective so that you guys can really see and hear each other clearly. Next is to know when to walk away. If an argument starts to escalate and you feel like you're about to lose your cool or lose your temper, there's nothing wrong with ending the conversation and walking away. I know some people find it disrespectful for a person to just walk out of an argument. But to me, when I was starting to work on myself and controlling my temper, that's what I had to do in order not to lose my cool. And, initially my husband thought it was very disrespectful. But after when we would cool down, I would tell him, look, this is what I have to do right now. Because if I just stayed there, I may say something that I may regret. I may act out in ways that I may not like. I may be doing too much when it requires very little. And because right in that moment, I don't fully have the tools to control myself, it's better for me to just walk away. And when I explained that to him, he totally understood. He was like, you know what? You're right. So a lot of times it's better, at least in the beginning stages of you being able to control yourself, to just walk away. Walk away. It's always better to walk away than to say something that you're going to regret later on. It's always better to walk away than to act in a way that might come off to be too big or too aggressive. Walk away. Because also after you walk away, it gives you time to take some breaths to get back to yourself. It gives you time to cool down. And as you're cooling down, hopefully he's cooling down so that you guys can come back to the situation with cooler heads later on. And last but not least, focus on solutions, not on winning, not on being right. Because if we focus on just winning, just being right, it can be at the detriment of your relationship. The reality is your husband and yourself, you are on the same team. You guys have come together because you want to create a life together. A life that requires both of you doing your part. Both of you being able to function as a unit. It is not about who's right and who's wrong all the time. Sometimes you both have to put egos aside and focus on what is the solution. If our relationship is at a certain state that we don't like, how can we fix it? So since we're on the same team, me attacking you doesn't yield anything for me. You attacking me doesn't yield anything for you. All it yields is bitterness, resentment, and hurt feelings. What is our purpose? What is our mission? What are we trying to accomplish? And let's focus on that. Let's focus on addressing this issue so that we can focus on our mission, so that we can focus on our goals together, so that we can focus on creating a beautiful life for each other. Let's focus on that. All right, beautiful people. So those are my tips for fighting fair as a feminine woman in a romantic relationship. Now remember, disagreements, arguments, conflict in relationships are normal, and it's not always necessarily a bad thing as long as you address it with respect and empathy. So I hope this video was useful and informative for you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you already know what to do. Leave it down below. And I love you guys, and stay tuned for more and more videos in cultivating our femininity. Stay tuned. Bye.